I've always thought my neighborhood was safe. A quiet, suburban cul-de-sac where everyone waves, kids ride bikes, and the most exciting thing to happen in a year is when someone forgets trash day. But it was on an ordinary Tuesday night, or rather early Wednesday morning, that I learned how thin the illusion of safety really is. I went to bed around midnight, scrolling my phone until I drifted off. I remember waking up because of a noise. Not the kind of noise that's obvious, like a car alarm or barking dog, but subtle. Almost like a dull thump, far away. I thought maybe it was in my dream. I tried rolling over, convincing myself I imagined it, but then came another sound. A knock. It was soft. 3 dull taps against something. Wood, maybe. I froze. My room was upstairs and the front door was downstairs. I glanced at the clock. 3:17 a.m. No one knocks at 3:17 in the morning. At first, I thought maybe it was a neighbor, an emergency, someone needing help. But the longer I lay there, the more something felt wrong. The knock came again, this time louder. Knock, knock, knock. I sat up in bed, straining to hear. My house was so silent that I could hear the faint buzzing of the fridge downstairs. I slowly climbed out of bed and tiptoed to the top of the stairs. My heart hammered so loud I was terrified they'd hear it. The front door has a small frosted glass window. From the stairs, I could see a distorted shadow shifting back and forth on the porch. Someone was standing there, and they weren't leaving. I whispered to myself, "Don't open it. Just don't open it." I crept back toward my bedroom, grabbed my phone, and dialed 911. My voice shook as I whispered to the operator. She told me to stay on the line and keep quiet, that officers were on the way. I went back to the top of the stairs to keep an eye on the door, but when I looked again, the shadow was gone. The relief was immediate, but short-lived. Because then I heard it. The sound of my back sliding door, the one leading to the patio, creaking open. My knees nearly buckled. I had locked it. I knew I had locked it. But the sound was unmistakable, the quiet grind of the glass door being forced off its track. I whispered to the dispatcher, telling her they were inside, begging her to hurry. She kept me calm, told me to find a safe place. I backed into my bedroom, shut the door as quietly as I could, and pushed my dresser in front of it. Every sound downstairs seemed magnified. The slow shuffle of footsteps across tile, the creak of floorboards as someone explored. I realized something chilling. The knocking at the front door had been a distraction. While I was focused on the shadow, someone else had gone around back, and now they were in. The footsteps got closer. My stairs are old, the kind that groan with every step, and I heard it, the first creak, then the second. They were coming up. I covered my mouth with my hand, stifling sobs. The dispatcher kept whispering to me, "They're close, just hold on." Officers are almost there. The footsteps stopped right outside my bedroom door. Silence. Then, a slow dragging across the wood. Whoever it was, they were running their fingers across the door, testing it, feeling it. I heard a whisper. Low. Male. Just one word. Open. My body froze. I didn't breathe. The handle jiggled once, twice, then a thud against the door. Another. The dresser shuddered but held. And then, sirens. Loud and close. The pounding on the door stopped immediately. I heard the footsteps retreat, fast this time, racing down the stairs. The sliding door screeched again. By the time the cops stormed in, the house was empty. The grass outside was trampled, the fence gate wide open. They never caught him. To this day, I don't know if it was one man or two. I don't know why they picked my house. The police told me it looked like they'd been watching for a while, that the lock on the sliding door had been tampered with before. All I know is that every time I close my eyes, I still hear it. 3 knocks at 3:17 a.m. And I can't shake the thought that if the police had been just a minute slower, that door would have opened, and I'd never be telling this story. It was just past midnight when the doorbell rang. I was sitting on the couch, half asleep with the TV still on, when the chime jolted me upright. I live alone in a quiet neighborhood, and nobody visits me that late. My first thought was maybe a delivery mistake, though it didn't make sense. I hadn't ordered anything, and even if I had, packages don't show up after midnight. I muted the TV and sat there in silence, waiting to hear if it was a fluke. After a long moment, the bell rang again. Slow, deliberate, as if whoever was out there wasn't in a rush. A knot formed in my stomach. I stood, creeping toward the front door. My porch light was on, triggered by motion, but when I peeked through the peephole, there was no one standing there. Just the porch, empty and quiet. I almost turned away, thinking maybe kids were playing a prank when I heard it. From somewhere off to the left, a low voice, quiet, almost playful. "Can I come in?" The words were so soft I thought I imagined them. But then the voice repeated, a little closer, a little firmer. "Can I come in?" I slammed the deadbolt into place and stepped back, my pulse hammering in my throat. I grabbed my phone and dialed 911. My voice shook as I whispered to the dispatcher that someone was outside my house. She asked me to stay calm, to stay on the line, and assured me officers were on the way. I moved into the kitchen, as far from the door as I could get, and crouched by the counter. That's when I heard it, the faintest scrape against wood. The sound was coming from the back door. I froze, straining to listen. The scrape turned into a slow, deliberate scratch, like someone dragging a nail or a knife tip across the doorframe. Then, right against the back door, the whisper came again. "Let me in." This time, I knew I hadn't imagined it. The words vibrated in my bones. I whispered into the phone, telling the dispatcher that he was at the back door now, scratching. She told me not to engage, not to respond, just to stay hidden. But every part of me was screaming to run. The whisper moved. I could hear footsteps outside, deliberate and slow, circling the house, a creak by the side window, then another scrape, this time along the glass. "Let me in." The voice followed me, always moving to the window or door nearest to wherever I was crouched. It was like he could see me inside. I shuffled quietly down the hallway toward my bedroom, phone clutched to my ear. The dispatcher kept talking, asking if I could see him. I whispered that I couldn't, only that he was circling. Halfway down the hall, I froze again. The voice was at the front door now, just feet from where I had been moments ago. "Let me in." The way he said it wasn't desperate. It wasn't even angry. It was calm, like he had all the time in the world. My hands were shaking so badly, I nearly dropped the phone. The dispatcher reassured me the officers were close. Then, from the living room, I heard a metallic rattle. My stomach dropped. It was the sound of the door handle being tested. Gently at first, then harder. The chain lock rattled against the doorframe. "Let me in." The voice was louder now, almost a chant. I pressed myself against the wall, silently begging for the police to get here. My ears strained for sirens. Then, silence. No more rattling, no more whispers, no more footsteps. Just quiet. I didn't dare move. I sat in the hallway, shaking, listening to the silence press in on the house. Finally, I heard the dispatcher say, "The officers are pulling up now. Stay where you are." Blue and red lights splashed across my curtains. The doorbell camera, which I checked later, caught the officers walking up my front path. But it didn't catch anyone leaving. When the police searched the property, they found no footprints in the yard, no fingerprints on the doors or windows, no sign of forced entry. They told me it was probably someone messing with me, maybe a local kid, maybe a prank. They advised I get better locks, maybe even a camera system. But when I checked the footage from my motion-activated porch light, I saw something that still makes my blood run cold. At exactly 12:09 a.m., right before the first doorbell ring, the porch light flicked on. For a fraction of a second, the camera caught the image of a man standing just out of frame. You couldn't see his face, just his shoulder, the edge of his hoodie, and the faint glint of something metallic in his hand. The clip ended almost immediately, as if he knew exactly how to avoid being filmed. The police couldn't identify him from that single image. They shrugged, told me to stay vigilant. That night, I didn't sleep at all. I sat up in my locked bedroom, every light in the house on, staring at the door. But here's the thing that keeps me awake, even now. The voice had always said, "Let me in." Not, "I'm coming in," not, "I'm breaking in," just, "Let me in." It was almost like he was waiting for permission, and I don't know what would have happened if, in my half-asleep state, I had answered with a single word. Okay. It was 2:30 in the morning when I woke up to the sound of my bedroom doorknob rattling. The sound was so sharp, so metallic, that for a moment I thought I was dreaming. My brain tried to explain it away. Maybe the pipe's knocking, or maybe I'd left the fan running and something had bumped against the wall. But then it happened again. A distinct, deliberate twist of the knob. Someone was trying to open my bedroom door. I froze. The fear hit so suddenly, it felt like ice water poured into my veins. I live alone. There was no one else who should have been inside my house. I slid off the bed as quietly as I could and reached for the baseball bat I keep leaning in the corner. I've always kept it there as a kind of just-in-case precaution, but I never thought I'd actually need it. The knob rattled again. Not violently, just enough to test it. Then came silence. I stood in the middle of my room, gripping the bat so tight my knuckles turned white, straining to hear. After a long pause, I heard it. The faint groan of the hallway floorboard just outside my door. The one that always creaked under my weight. Whoever was out there wasn't leaving. They were standing there, waiting. I crept toward the window and pulled the blinds back just a crack. The street outside was dead quiet. My car sat in the driveway. No movement. No lights. The neighborhood was asleep. I backed away, heart pounding in my ears. That's when I realized my phone was across the room, on the dresser. I shuffled slowly toward it, careful not to make a sound, and dialed 911 with trembling fingers. The dispatcher answered, and I whispered into the phone that someone was inside my house, right outside my bedroom door. She told me to stay calm, stay quiet, and that officers were on the way. I clung to her voice like a lifeline, but I couldn't stop the trembling in my hands. For 10 long minutes, nothing happened. The silence in the hallway felt suffocating. I kept thinking maybe they'd left. Maybe I'd imagined it. Then, through the crack under the door, came a whisper. "I know you're awake." The sound was so close it made my skin crawl. I nearly dropped the phone. My knees buckled, and I pressed myself against the far wall, shaking. The dispatcher's voice buzzed in my ear, asking me to repeat what I'd heard, but I couldn't form the words. My whole body was locked in place. Another whisper followed, clearer this time. "You should have locked the window." I felt my stomach lurch. I had locked the windows. I knew I had. Then came the sound of footsteps. Slow, measured, padding away down the hallway. My breath caught in my throat. Were they leaving, or just moving to another part of the house? Minutes stretched into eternity until, finally, red and blue lights flashed across my curtains. I heard the police shouting, banging on the front door. I stayed frozen in my room until the dispatcher told me it was safe to come out. The officers swept the house, guns drawn, but the place was empty. No intruder. No one hiding in the closets or under the bed. My bedroom door was still locked. But when they checked the kitchen, they found the back window open. The screen had been pried off and was lying in the grass outside. The worst part, though, was what they found on the hallway carpet. Muddy, barefoot prints leading from the kitchen window straight down the hall to my bedroom door. And then back out again. The officer knelt down to inspect them and looked up at me with a grim expression. "Whoever it was stood at your door for a while," he said quietly. "Just listening." I didn't sleep in that house again. Even now, years later, I sometimes wake up in the middle of the night convinced I hear the faint metallic twist of a doorknob. And when I do, I swear I can still hear that voice, low, patient, almost playful, sliding through the dark. "I know you're awake."